Hello, my name is Anneshia Freeman. I'm also known as the locksmith because I make keys for locks in the mind. I'm a master's level therapist, and my specialty is cognitive restructuring, meaning I specialize in exposing and challenging dysfunctional, unconscious beliefs that make decisions for people without their conscious awareness. I also provide people with tools, real tools to help them reprogram their minds with functional beliefs. Welcome to episode 3 in my Facebook Live and YouTube Live series entitled Automatic React System versus Automatic Response System. This is a 4 episode series, but don't worry, each episode can stand on its own. So if you missed 1 or 2, you can still benefit from 3. They stand alone. But if you would like to see the first 2 episodes, you can scroll down in my feed and watch them. Whenever you hear me use certain terms on any of my live series, I'm talking about some terms rather I use interchangeably. So if you hear me talk about lies, issues, unaddressed issues, or the buttons people push, I'm referring to the same thing. I'm referring to dysfunctional, unconscious beliefs that cause people to engage in self defeating behaviors repeatedly, despite what they consciously know they should do. So, I'm going to talk during this series about how these dysfunctional beliefs or lies issue certain directives that people obey. And so people have an automatic reaction when the dysfunctional beliefs or the lies are triggered. They have an automatic reaction. So I'm going to talk about 3 lies and the automatic reactions they cause. Then I will talk about functional beliefs that challenge those lies and how, when people operate out of functional beliefs, they can respond rather than react. Sometimes when people react, they have an overt reaction to the trigger, to the belief being triggered. Sometimes the reaction is more covert. So I'll talk about overt and covert reactions. It's the same for functional beliefs. Sometimes when a functional belief is activated or triggered, people have an overt, not a dysfunctional, but a overt response, or they could have a more covert or subtle response. So I'll talk about both. Now, in each episode, previous episode, I've mentioned that I came across a series where a blog rather. My coffee wasn't strong enough this morning. I came across a blog where a psychologist was defining the difference between react and respond. And I agree with her definition to a certain extent. So she said when people react, it's instinctive and it's emotional and impulsive and can be influenced by past experiences or fears. I agree. But when she said talked about response, I agree to a certain extent. She said that it's more of a thoughtful, deliberate action. But she said that it people consider they take time to consider the situation and weighing the options before they respond. But I have found in my work, my 21 years in the field of cognitive restructuring, I've been clean off drugs and alcohol for 24 years. So I've been working in the field for 21 years, and my specialty is cognitive restructuring. And over that period of time, I've worked with a lot of people. And I have discovered that when people develop a relationship with functional beliefs, and I've encountered people who were programmed during the formative years with these functional beliefs. So they've been operating out of the healthy beliefs their entire lives. Their response is immediate. It's not something. Now, we all have to consider things sometimes and think about what's happening before we respond, or but people react a lot. But in most cases, the functional belief is just as automatic. And so I'll give you 3 examples. We're going to be talking about three three examples today, and I'll give you some examples. So I'll add some real life examples in there when I break it down. So the first lie or dysfunctional belief that I'm going to talk about today is this lie: people are only tolerating you. And so if there may be some cases where people are only tolerating you, but that's not the problem with this belief. This belief tells the afflicted individual that people in general are only tolerating them, that their presence is somehow automatically annoying or irritating to people. And this belief was usually programmed into a child's mind during the formative years. The brain is developed, the mind is programmed. It was programmed into a child's mind by having people, whether it's parents, siblings, or other people, act as if the child's presence was annoying. They would tell the child, go to your room, go outside, leave me alone. Or maybe their older siblings didn't want to be bothered with them and they were trying to tag along, and their older siblings would be like, go somewhere, go play in your room, leave us alone. They may have been bullied at school. So there's a lot of ways that this belief, this lie, people are only tolerating you, can be programmed into a child's mind. If there's no intervention, if there's no cognitive restructuring, this lie will follow an individual into his or her adult life and make decisions for them. So when this belief is triggered, an overt reaction people if they're getting on their nerves. So people who are afflicted by this lie, when this lie gets triggered, and it could be triggered or activated just by being around other people. In some cases, there are other triggers that push this button, but they'll start apologizing for their presence. They may say something like, "Oh, I know I'm getting on your nerves. I'm gonna be real quick. I'll be out of here real quick. I just want to ask you one question, and then I'm gonna ask one question, then I'm gonna get out of your way. Am I getting on your nerves?" That's an example of someone having an overt reaction to this belief being triggered or activated. A more covert reaction is not asserting one's rights, or not speaking up in certain situations, because the belief says people are only tolerating you, so you certainly can't speak up, you certainly can't push the button or envelope, you can't push the envelope in cases where it's appropriate for an individual to do so. So I'll give you an example. Years ago, I lived in a different state and I was really busy and rushing. I do have a issue I'm working through. I've made amazing progress with rushing, but back then I was working full time, going to school full time. I was doing a lot of different things. So I stopped by the dry cleaners near my home to pick up my clothes. And so I was in a time crunch. So I'm, rushing in to get my clothes before I have to jump on the highway and get to work. So I walked into the place. It was a laundromat and dry cleaners. And I walked in, and there was a gentleman standing there waiting, I guess, to pick up his dry cleaning. I assume he was at the dry cleaner counter. And there was no one else there. There was no one, no other customers. There was no employee there at the front desk. So I'm rushing in, and I looked at the gentleman. I stood there for a few seconds, but then I looked at the gentleman who was waiting, and I said, "How long have you been waiting?" And he said, "About 15 minutes. I went, 15 minutes. They didn't have a bell, like some places have a little bell you can ding so people will come out if they're not, automatically out there. They didn't have a bell. I made up a bell. I started going ding, 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 hello, ding, 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 hello. Someone immediately came out of the back. It was like, "Can I help you?" So I told the gentleman, I looked at the gentleman, "You were here first, go ahead." And he just started smiling and giggling to himself. And he was like, "No, go ahead." And so I don't know this person. I'm not going to try to diagnose him or, figure out what his beliefs are, or issues are. But he stood there 15 minutes. And so I heard a quote. I'm trying to remember who it was by, because I like to cite people. I believe in citing people, but right now I don't have the source in front of me. But I heard a quote that says, if somebody wastes 10 minutes of your time, 8 minutes of it was your fault. Now, I do know that sometimes employees have to go take care of personal business and they're not out front, all the time, but he had been standing there 15 minutes. And as soon as I said something, the person automatically appeared. And so sometimes people who have this particular issue, they'll be in situations where they have a right to speak up to get their needs met or their rights respected. But this lie tells them you can't do that because people are only tolerating you. And so another covert reaction is just rushing to get out of people's way, or apologizing. You going down the aisle, oh, I'm sorry, I'll get it, like at a supermarket. Instead of just saying excuse me, they apologize and rush to get out of people's way. So there's a more functional belief that challenges this lie. And these are my cognitive restructuring cards. The functional beliefs are on the back, an entire paragraph, but I'm going to summarize it in a few sentences. So the functional belief that challenges, a functional belief that challenges the lie, people are only tolerating you, is we're all tolerating each other to a certain extent. We all have to share this space called Earth. You have a right to occupy space and time. People who are in your personal life should celebrate you as opposed to just tolerating you. Now, we all have the capacity to get on each other's nerves. We all have our little idiosyncrasies, and then we just have to really practice tolerance. But people who love you and care about you, who are in your inner circle, they shouldn't be acting, and I am shitting on them, but they should not, shoulding, SHOULDING. They should not, act as if everything you do and everything you say gets on their nerves. And so I'm gonna tell you, when I talk about the automatic response system, how to handle someone who acts like that. So an overt response to the functional belief is expressing your rights and needs. Also articulating that you will remove yourself from people who act as if everything you do and say gets on their nerves. I tell a person, I don't have a problem, because some people act like everything you do or say get on their nerves. They have dysfunctional unconscious beliefs that make them act like that, but it's their responsibility to work through that and get their own help. And I have told people unapologetically who act as if everything I do and say, and it doesn't happen often, a few people who have acted as if, that I'm closely related to, who act as if everything I do and say get on their nerves. I tell them, you don't have to suffer like that. I tell them, I say, that dash between the day you're born and the day you die, that's a short period in time in the big scheme of things, and you should enjoy your life. And if my presence, everything I do, everything I say get on your nerves, you don't have to suffer like that. I'm gonna remove my presence. That's me operating out of that functional belief. I don't believe that everything I do and say is annoying, but I also know that I don't have to tolerate someone acting as if my presence is annoying or irritating. Another covert response is being comfortable in your own skin, even when you're around people who are acting as if your presence is annoying. Now, in some situations, like I just described, you can remove yourself, but there's other situations you can't, like at work. You can't leave because someone acting as if they don't want to be around you, or if you're at the grocery store and somebody is acting like they're annoyed because you're in the same lane as them. You're not in their personal space, but you're in the same aisle getting something off the shelf. I've had people act like that. It doesn't happen often, but every now and then I'll be in the aisle and I'll be looking for something. Someone may be a few feet away. We're not in each other's personal space, but I've had people turn and go, just because I came down the aisle, that my ignore game is strong in those cases, because when it comes to like everyday life and navigating society, you don't have to address every single thing that happens. In fact, you'll be going around getting in confrontations all the time if you do. In my personal life, I address things like that with people in my personal life. In public, my ignore game is strong. And if someone's not being overtly disrespectful or overtly abusive, I just ignore them and go on about my business, because a lot of times people have all sorts of things going on in their personal life that have nothing to do with you. And that's part of the functional belief. It says that a lot of times people are just having a bad day, and the way their facial expression, their body language, a lot of it has nothing to do with you, but people can be triggered. This lie can be triggered by other individuals' facial expressions, vocal tones, body language, all of those types of, all that type of stimuli. So that's one. So another belief I'm going to talk about today is you have to compensate for your presence with goods and services. I put these two together today because they work together. So a lot of times people who struggle with the lie, people are only tolerating you. They also struggle with the lie, you have to compensate for your presence with goods and services. I call it the therefore factor. So this belief says because people are only tolerating you, you have to compensate them for your presence. Like you have to pay them for allowing you to exist in their presence, which is, they're both lies. And so, an overt reaction to this lie being triggered is automatically offering to pick up the check at the restaurant, even when you don't have the money, when you really can't afford it. This lie will make someone a volunteer to pick up the check at the restaurant with their light bill money. That's a reaction to the belief issuing a directive. And so, a covert reaction to this lie being triggered is inviting someone out, like, let's go to the movies, and including in the invite the offer to pay without waiting to see if that individual would pay their own way. So, this lie will tell a person, hey, call someone, ask them out, but offer to pay before they can say no to going out with you. Like, because remember, these lies like to collaborate. And so this lie will say, include the offer to pay in the invite. It's okay to do nice things for people, to pick up the check occasionally, and to offer to treat someone to an outing or something. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a toxic belief, a lie that tells the afflicted individual there's a meter running when you're in the presence of others, and you have to pay people for putting up with you. So when the people, usually people who struggle with this lie, when they don't have any money, or they can't provide some type of service, they will isolate, because the lie tells them you don't have any value to contribute. You have to subsidize your presence, like you have to attach goods and services to your presence in order for people to, be around you or accept you for short, accept your presence or tolerate your presence for short increments of time. And it's a lie. The lie, I did a series a while back entitled "The Lie is Lying to You." So I'm going to summarize the functional belief, which is in a paragraph on my cognitive restructuring cards. I'm going to summarize the functional beliefs in a couple sentences. There is no meter running when I'm in the presence of others unless I bring one and turn it on. I can interact with people who enjoy my presence. That's a more functional belief. And so, an overt response to the functional belief is asking for separate checks at the restaurant, or alternating who picks up the check. So I have individuals I associate with. I only have healthy people in my inner circle, and people are, no one's perfect, but people who have a more healthier thought process, those are the people that can be like in my inner social circle. And so if we go out to eat, the relationships are reciprocal. I may pick up the check one time, they'll pick up the check the next time, or we pay our own way. And because we're interacting, because we enjoy each other's presence. No one is there trying to manipulate or benefit off another person. So a covert response is asking someone if they would like to go out. And if they say, well, I don't have money, to go out, and they say I can't afford it, well, then say, okay, well, maybe we can do it some other time. Now, if you are in a position to treat, and you liked and you want to just hang out, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about engaging with someone who, whenever you ask if you want to do something, they never, if they would like to go with you to a certain place and do a certain thing, they always say they don't have any money. One more overt response is to stop asking those people to go out or hang out with you. A more covert is saying, okay, well, maybe some other time, and going out by yourself. Just want to make that point. I'm not talking about treating people. I'll treat people. I'll see somebody. Hey, how you doing? Let's get a cup of coffee or something. My treat, right? But these are healthy people, because I know they do the same for me. That's not what this lie. This lie tells people you have to pay people for putting up with you. And manipulators can spot these issues in people and they will take advantage of them. So, the third dysfunctional unconscious belief I'm going to talk about today is there is something wrong with you. So, it's not so much what this lie is saying, is what it is implying. And so because the belief, the dysfunctional belief is implying that the person who's afflicted with the belief is somehow tainted or contaminated. Because the truth is, a more functional belief is there are some things wrong with all of us. Every human being on this planet is a mixture of weaknesses and strengths. So I'm actually going into the functional beliefs. But first, let me talk about the reaction that this lie causes when it's triggered. It can make the person, the lie afflicted person, make self debasing remarks. So they put themselves down. They harshly critique themselves, and this is in the presence of other people. They can do it internally, but they will articulate, they will voice negative things about themselves to other people. They compare, this belief will make them compare their weaknesses to other people's strengths. So if an individual compares their weaknesses to other people's strengths, and if that person also ignore their strengths and ignore other people's weaknesses, then the belief is validating itself. One of the models for my program, The Lies That Bind, is the job of the lie is to prove itself true. So these lies or dysfunctional beliefs have algorithms built into them to confirm to validate themselves, even though they're not true. And so a covert reaction to this belief being triggered is not asserting yourself in situations in which you should, or not going after opportunities, sabotaging relationships. I've worked with individuals who got free from this belief and other unhealthy beliefs, and they started going after job promotions that it had been suggested that they go after in the past, but they wouldn't. They would make all sorts of rationalizations and justifications for why they wouldn't apply for the promotion or the advancement. But it was the belief telling them there's something wrong with you. Compared to others, you come up short. Let somebody else deserves that, not you. So they wouldn't go after the opportunity. It's a more covert, more subtle reaction. So I already mentioned the functional belief, but I'll reiterate it. A more functional belief is there are some things wrong with all of us. Every person on this planet is a mixture of weaknesses and strengths. There are no perfect people. And so overt response to the functional belief is setting boundaries with people who make degrading remarks or jokes about you. Because there's some people who will take a shot at an individual, try to degrade that person. They'll frame it as a joke. And if you don't think it's funny, and if it's degrading, you have a right to set a boundary. So people who have a healthy belief system about themselves, they are okay with their strengths and their weaknesses. They're confident, not arrogant, confident. The difference between confidence and arrogance is that an arrogant person won't acknowledge their weaknesses, their liabilities. A confident person will acknowledge their weaknesses and their strengths. They can acknowledge their assets and their liabilities, and they're okay with both. Hopefully they're working on some of the weaknesses that they can improve on, but some of them you can't. Like, I don't have the gift to sing. I'm not going to a class to learn how to sing. I'm not naturally gifted with that. So it makes more sense for me to use my time and energy perfecting my gifts. So I'm okay with that. If somebody would be like, Anneshia, you can't sing, I'd be like, you're right. You are very right. And if you hear me at church, I am making a joyful noise, And so a more covert response to the functional belief that there's no perfect person, we're all mixtures of weaknesses and strengths, is discussing your strengths and weaknesses unapologetically and going after opportunities when they present themselves. So that's all for episode 3 in my Facebook Live series entitled Automatic act system versus automatic response system. If you would like more information about my work, I'm going to put several links in the comments section. I'm going to put a link to a page on my website where you can sign up for life coaching. I offer life coaching, individual coaching, and I'm offering a 25% discount in the month of September. So if you want to sign up to work with me individually, the discount, the 25% discount, is only valid to the end of September. I'm also going to put a link to my store page because I offer, a person can buy my cognitive restructuring cards. So I have a set of 100 most commonly seen victim lies and a set of 100 most commonly seen villain lies. So next week I'll be talking about, in my last episode, some villain beliefs. So I've been alternating each week. And these card sets they come with this workbook. This workbook is sold with these cards. I also have another workbook that's sold with the cards, so you can make a decision which workbook you want to buy with the cards. And this workbook talks about how each of these dysfunctional unconscious beliefs make demands on people's time and money. So I have a master's in business administration and a master's in social work. And for my MBA, we were taught how to quantify. And so I quantify the financial and time impact of obeying the directives of these lies. I also have a workbook. It's available on my store page and it's available on Amazon. I'm slowly transitioning a lot of my material to Amazon, so because they do print on demand. But this workbook, The Adult Reenactment of the Childhood Script, it is available on my website, on store page, but it's also available on Amazon. And it's the same with two of my books. So I have a book that has 31 cognitive restructuring articles that were originally featured in a bi-weekly column that I had for a particular multicultural newspaper some years ago. And people would be calling up to the paper asking for certain papers that had articles they had heard about. So I put 31 of them in here. This is actually volume 1. I'm going to be releasing volume 2 with 33 articles by the end of this year. This is all available on my store page, and it's available on Amazon in ebook or paperback. I released my life story this year also. I have a story of healing from horrific childhood trauma, addiction, drug addiction, and healing from a trauma-based belief system. So this is my life story. It is available on Amazon in ebook or paperback. So you can get it as the ebook, you have it immediately, or you can order it and get it in paperback. And if you have a certain subscription, you can get it immediately, like the next day if you want the paperback. So again, that's all for this episode. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a half an hour series, 12 o'clock to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the final episode in this series. I look forward to seeing you next week. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.